We're live. There we go. Made it work.
We
Make
made it.
sure here. I'm gonna retweet this. Make sure that people see it. I'll let some people join as we're getting here ready for Law and Sporter Thursday nights here with Justin Watkins. No Steve Cofield. He is out of town. And send it the tweet right now. There we go. I guess I didn't label it right, so sorry those people out there. It is up on Twitter. I posted it. So let's jump into some things. Really wanted JVT here for a story I wanted to do up off the top, but we'll wait till maybe he comes in and have some other stuff to talk about. First, I guess, Justin, how are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing all right. I was just getting ready to send a tweet that says the great debate. We got no moderator this time.
That's actually true. The tweet is up. It's just not kind of labeled as it usually is.
No, I'm there. I'm there. I
Okay.
got it.
All right, good.
I found
Good.
it, but
It didn't
just gotta
tag
let
you.
everybody. Oh yeah, that's all right. I know how to find it.
Yeah, tagged you in the description, not the exactly. I'm gonna retweet yours now too. All right, so yeah, I want JVT on this other thing I want to do, so we'll see if he comes in. But I first want to start with something that I think I've asked you about before, but I want to get into this again because it's a media issue and a political issue. So I know we both have some interest in those things. So the New York Post story yesterday, I find incredibly fascinating. This is the mysterious Hunter Biden emails that's supposedly the explosive game changer that changes the whole election. Uh, let's just start right off the top before we get into it. The story is fake. It's not true.
Okay.
It's a fake story.
All right.
Um, there's a lot of problems with this story. The first being, so did you see the background on this at all? What
No.
happened?
So tell me.
So supposedly a computer was left at a repair shop in Delaware, where the Biden family is from. Nobody ever claimed it, but it had a Biden sticker on it. So the computer shop owner decides to look through it. Computer shop owner, who is a massive Trump supporter, decides to look through and finds all this explosive, damaging stuff about the Biden family, about Hunter Biden and his dealings with Ukraine and all this other stuff that is on there. Now, you've seen people post emails that are part of proceedings, like investigations and stuff. Like they have timestamps, they have an order of who they received them, all those things. These are just basically like, here's an email. You're like, no. But also, no. But also, let's just consider, because this is not the debate I want to have. But let's just consider what happens here at in a newsroom, right? This computer was given to Rudy Giuliani, who then takes it to the New York Post, who then decides to write this big expose about what happened, right? Okay. I can assure you, as somebody who has worked in newsrooms for most of my life, all of my adult life, most of my life, if this happens, you're getting like your best 6 guys on it. And I mean guys or girls. Your 6 best reporters. You are all vetting this, you're writing it, this is going to be the biggest story of the year. So everybody's on it, everybody's vetting it, everybody's making sure, we're doing the ancillary stories, we're doing sidebars, all this stuff. What does the New York Post do? They allow somebody to write it who's never written an article in their life, who's a producer at Fox News. They allow this person to write the story.
Okay.
That alone tells you, and I think JVT is here. Wait, did somebody call themselves into the? What happened then? That alone tells you pretty much everything you need to know about the veracity of this story.
Yeah.
But again, I don't want to even make this. Yeah, Brady said Rudy's attorney first, and then Rudy. This whole thing is not the point. The point is, the New York Post puts this story out in the right-wing blogosphere, the right-wing Twitterverse. This is the biggest story that has ever hit the planet. Like, this is the biggest thing of all time. Everybody else is looking at this like, wait, is this real? Is this true? Like, trying to figure it out. Twitter, and this is the part that I actually want to get into. Twitter and Facebook both disabled the story. You can't share it, and you can't post it, you can't link it, you can't share it. Like, you can't do anything with the story. The story is blocked, essentially.
That's awesome.
Is it? That is my question. Like, and I know I've posed this before, but it's something I do want to get into. Like, shouldn't I'm going to be careful what I'm saying. Shouldn't dumb people just be allowed to read that? And if they want to believe it, they can. Like, where are we drawing the line of, hey, listen, people, this story is fake, and somebody in the comments is disputing this. They're saying, yeah, I'm sure it's fake. It's a fake story. Sifting weed. It is a fake story. Like, this is not really up for debate anymore. If you go through and look what's going, like, it's not. And I know, again, tonight, here's the big story on Twitter, is that Joe Biden did a town hall and they decided not to ask him about the story. It's a fake story. It's not true. The person that's in trouble for this is Rudy Giuliani, who a year ago, now it's come out, the White House was told, hey, the Russians are giving Rudy Giuliani fake information and he's trying to get it published. Now we know that this is the result of that. That's what's going on here. So this is a fake story. But isn't there something about public discourse that, hey, if you want to put fake stuff out there, put the fake stuff out there, and a lot of idiots are just going to believe it. But hey, that's what we have to deal with in a modern, like, technological society.
Yeah. So, and I just see Mark and LV's comment about, I have opinions about questions in judicial candidates. So if we get to them, sure, cool. If not, DM me and I'll get you my list. But so you'll remember we started this discussion in studio maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I was saying, hey, it's not a social media's responsibility to regulate, review any sort of language. It is, in essence, like an open park, and people can come there and yell the stupidest, craziest, untrue things to each other, and they could all sit there and have this little debate amongst themselves, like you're at Washington Square Park across from, the White House, which is exactly what that is, right? It is Twitter personified. Okay. Now, since that time, I've watched The Social Dilemma.
Oh, you did watch it.
And in watching The Social Dilemma, I would still be in my same position as I was before if these social media platforms just allowed organically these discussions to happen. But that's not what they're doing, right? They're pushing information, disinformation, conspiracy theories based on profiles to the users who are most likely to believe them. So they have long already, and I didn't recognize that. I didn't understand the depths at which they do that until I watched The Social Dilemma. So they are not just an open marketplace of ideas, right? They are, in fact, censoring certain speech from certain users and pushing the opposite speech to them because they think that it's going to keep them engaged more. They think they're going to like it. They're going to go jump down that rabbit hole, and we get more likes, we get more clicks, we get more scrolls, we get more everything. And so from my perspective, based on their algorithms that they're using, then they have to engage in regulating truth and falsity if they're going to keep their platforms organized the way they are. So I think this is a positive.
On a side note, how scary is that documentary?
I do not have Twitter or Facebook or TikTok on my phone anymore.
Because of that?
Yeah. I mean, I long had Facebook off my phone. I have an account and I can log into it. If I knew for certain that I was never going to ever run for office ever again, I'd delete that account too.
Who's in your top 8?
MySpace? I don't have I never deleted my MySpace account, so I guess it's probably still out there. Me and Tom. Tom's number 1.
I actually think I found mine not that long ago.
Oh, mine
somehow logged in.
That's great. So yeah. I mean, it impacted me, the Social Dilemma, for sure.
well, I mean, it's not going to impact me because I'm so obsessed with social media. But to this, like, I'm afraid to watch this documentary. Watch it.
But yeah, you got to watch
Definitely
it.
watch it. Because I think it's important to be informed on what's going on. And I think being more informed about it gives you a better understanding of what's going on. It allows you, if you are still going to stay engaged, which I am, on these social media platforms, you should at least understand what is going on.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
a couple of the big takeaways, like one was, that they're doing this, that they're pushing you to be engaged, that they're trying to make you angry and like make you agree with this and then make you angry about this and just stay engaged. Their whole goal is to make you stay on the app longer and on the platform longer, which is crazy. But you, at least if you understand what they're trying to do, then it helps you deal with it a little bit better. But I think one of the bigger takeaways from that was somebody saying, how on earth, like, do you not see things the same way I do when you see all this information? And then the response is, you're not seeing the same information. That's why, which is crazy. But then the other one, and like, I thought this was sensationalistic when I saw it, and the more I've thought about it, I don't. I think it's absolutely true that one of the big former executives from a couple of these sites, I think he was with Pinterest, Twitter, and Facebook at one point, was asked, like, how does this end? And he looked at the camera and he just goes, Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's crazy. But I don't think it's that crazy.
We know that is happening in other countries, right? I agree with you. My biggest takeaway from the documentary was when they used the example of, like, how are all these people, like, doing this demonstration or rallying when don't they read the news? Don't they see? And they're like, yeah, they read their news and you read your news. And if it's like they made the example of, imagine if you went to Wikipedia and the answer differed depending on who was searching for the topic. That's what social media is.
Yeah.
And now that you can navigate it, I think, more intelligently, knowing that you're being categorized, you're being profiled, and they're going to put certain things out to you to try to keep you on. But the other takeaway, one of the big ones I had from it, along the lines of what you're saying, is that there, in some of these developing countries, like, Facebook is the internet. Right. There is no internet. There's just, like, I mean, there is, but there is no real internet. It's all kind of sort of blocked, but Facebook is the thing. And in some of these countries, and you'll remember, because you said the country last time, like, civil war has broken out. Now, can you attach it completely to social media? Maybe, maybe not, but they sort of make the case for it and say, yeah, there was disagreements, but now it's taken. Where was that? Like Burma or something?
Like Burkina Faso or some.
Yeah,
it might have been Burma. Yeah, it was somewhere along those lines. Yeah, but you're right. But I mean, and you think, I'm telling you, I think when you hear it, you're like, it's crazy. Hong Kong is a different thing. Rock and Roll Cabbie. It's definitely got information, but there was a country where civil war broke out, and this documentary was basically like, yeah, because Facebook's the internet, and people they all of a sudden got it. They didn't have internet, they get it, but it's Facebook, and then it drives people two completely different directions, and then they start going to war because they believe so much that what they're seeing is right and correct, and it is happening here. And I was talking to some people listen to Cop here, 92.3 here in Vegas, and they know that I'm friends with Gooch, who's the afternoon DJ there, and we're having a pretty heated discussion today. We're friends all the way back to like 10th grade, so we have a lot of heated discussions. But he was kind of on this board of, like, he's scared that there's going to be a civil war, and I was kind of like dismissing him. But at some point, like it's not happening tomorrow, but at some point, like, if everybody keeps like just being driven in these opposite directions, that they are absolutely right and everybody else is wrong and they're seeing all these different things, then yeah. And as Mark said, yeah, these guys in Michigan wanted to start a civil war. They were going to kidnap governors, and
yeah,
by the way, kidnap the governor that the president said to liberate. So I feel like
Yeah, well,
No
and I mean,
coincidence.
if we're just going to dive down that rabbit hole, right? There's going to be a whole line of questioning that happens to the president right now in debates and in press conferences of like, hey, you're cool with a peaceful transfer of power, right? And it's like, well, we'll see what happens. And like that's the beginning, right? And the fact that they're even asking that question is a result of the polarization of social media, because there's a whole little, I mean, if you want to go down that rabbit hole, you can on social media, and all the people will talk about how there's not going to be a peaceful transfer of power. There'll be people on both sides of that. There'll be the right wings, well, it's all rigged, it's all this. And so yeah, I mean, I don't think we're above it because we have more internet and more availability of information, because if everybody's getting their information from social media, which is more and more the case, or cable news, which is a duller version of the same thing, then at some point, who knows how long, maybe it is November 3rd where civil war starts.
There's also no mystery. Like this should not be like a mystery, or like, hey, what's going on here? This, like, what do you mean there might not be a peaceful transfer of power?
Yeah.
Like, he hasn't said it explicitly, but he said it. They're going to take whatever happens to the Supreme Court, and that's why they're jamming in a judge before the election to determine the election in the favor of Trump. Like, it's not a big secret what they're going to do. That's what they're going to do. That's why they're pushing a judge through before, and he basically said it without saying it. He said, we need a judge in there because they might determine the outcome of the election. Like, that's not hiding it. That's what they're going to do.
I see a little distinction there, right? Like, let's say there is no legal challenge to the election results, right? It's all conspiracy theory. Oh, they ballot harvest. None of this is true. None of those lawsuits in which they're claiming this mail-in voting is a fraud. They've attempted to change the rules for the mail-in vote in all these different states. None of those have they been victorious. And so I just don't see, I'm saying, like, there's a difference between not agreeing to a peaceful transfer of power when you've lost, and it's clear you've lost, and there's no real good faith legal challenge to that. You're just like, nope, I'm not giving it up, and I'm going to say that this was rigged and it's bullshit, and it's terrible that the judges don't agree with me. They're very ungrateful. I put them in those positions, and everybody hates me and nobody's fair. That's different than, okay, we have a Bush v. Gore situation. There is a legal challenge, and frankly, I want to make sure that there's no tie there. That one is, I think, maybe not exactly on the highest moral grounds, but it's certainly legal. It's certainly appropriate to do under the law. They're not doing anything wrong, legally speaking.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, just by saying I want to get the Supreme Court person nominated before the election's done.
And she should absolutely be recusing herself from this and from any potential Roe v. Wade challenge. Like, she should not be, like, she's being put in office to determine this. She shouldn't be hearing the case.
Why?
That seems pretty clear to me. Like, you're jamming her in to hear that case. Like, you shouldn't be hearing the case.
I don't think that makes you buy it.
You don't get to pick the person who's, yeah. If you're the president,
yeah,
and you're saying, hey, listen, I might need somebody to determine the outcome of the election. I'm going to go with Adam. He's going to vote for me. Like, then you shouldn't be able to hear.
Well, I mean, that's what the hearings are for, right? And you have to figure that out. Did the president ever ask you how you would vote on these things? Did the president, I'm sure they're going to ask those questions if they haven't already. So
they had an intermediary ask for her. Like,
did anybody ask you this, right? Did anybody from, you can get to those questions. And the reality is what you're saying. I don't think that is unique in American history. There is the big topics of the day. You think that Barack Obama, when he was picking who he wanted on the Supreme Court, wasn't sure that they were sympathetic to equal rights and that they wanted gay marriage to be legalized, of course, right? Of course, you're gonna pick the judges that you think agree with the biggest decisions that they think they're gonna have to make, for sure.
I don't know. I just don't think
if you're not doing that, what the fuck are you doing? Like, how are you going about picking judges?
Like, who's the most fair?
Oh, fuck, man. I mean, how could you ever really judge that? I mean, how can you truly judge who's fair? I mean, let's take
case history.
Let's look at Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right? In her time, she was seen as liberal of a person as possible. She had made her career at being the most liberal person at the ACLU. She was way out there, right? In for the times. And so, I mean, how do you judge if she's going to be fair or not? You make an assumption. What is fair?
Hold on.
Who wants a polo?
Sorry, that was Left Coast Mike wants a polo, but I was looking for this one. Yeah. Hey Justin, can I get one of those polos?
They're on order. We'll get you some. Yeah.
They are pretty sweet. And this is me too. Like, I don't think referees and umpires should be human beings.
Well, that was the one funny sort of comment I saw was, I guess, an answer to one of the questions. Barrett said she would be able to set aside her religion and her upbringing in deciding cases, and it was like, what?
Yeah.
Number one, that's not possible, right? You don't know half of the biases that you have. Your biases are inherent, and you can't like, what did I say? There was this there's this attorney who was doing this CLE that I just took the other day who said ignorance is not self-correcting. I can't go, oh, I'm super ignorant on this point. I'm gonna cast that ignorance aside and be really fair and like smart on this. That's not how it works. And the person said, well, okay, then why don't we just have computers decide? I mean, if your upbringing and your history is not going to influence your decisions, then why do we need people?
Here, one step further, I don't think Biden should be eligible for presidency. So that's
based on what?
For those that are saying, I don't think people that are avowed religious people should be allowed to hold office or serve as judges.
Oh Jesus!
I've for sure I've always thought that. No, out. You're out.
Yeah,
if you're that gullible,
bro, it's just one of like the bedrocks of the founding of our country. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? I can't run
separation. Yeah, separation.
No, the freedom for anybody to exercise their religion.
Sure, and practice your religion as an individual.
Yeah, but you're saying that they can't then become judges, presidents, or elected office.
No.
So then you can't.
It's a non-religious test.
No, yeah, that's non-religious.
It's not a religious test.
Yes, it is. Non-religion is non-religious. Yeah, no, that's your choice on religion is no, right? It's in the First Amendment, bro. You're having a hard time. We gotta get to we got 10 of the Bill of Rights we gotta get to. You're stuck on number 1.
No, I think separation should be if that's what your beliefs are, and then you shouldn't be able to hold the office. That you're pledging allegiance to that,
cannot discriminate
and not the Constitution.
The government cannot inhibit your ability to observe your religion, meaning they cannot have a religious or a non-religious test for anything that they do.
Okay,
including people holding office. I thought you were going to go with it, me being ageist and saying, hey, I can't be president unless I'm 35 years old, and I can't be president if I'm over 75. That's what I want. Like,
well,
let's set some boundaries. You got to realize that I'd rather have a 34-year-old than an 84-year-old.
I once proposed that we just herd people up that are 55 and move them along into homes also. So
55.
Yeah. It helps a lot. There's scant resources out there.
We're getting close to that, Adam.
Well, when that bridge comes, we'll cross it. It's great. And yes, by the way, I hope people weren't taking that completely seriously, but it looks like some people were. That's fine. That's good.
That's all right.
Yes, obviously I wasn't 100% serious about that, but we will move on to some other things. Like I said, I wanted John. He might. I know that I don't want to give away his personal life here necessarily, but I know that his child that we discuss often on the show, Diego, has been a little sick, so maybe some issues there that he's taking care of. So maybe he won't be here. I wanted to wait.
I wonder if his wife's working on another viral cat video.
Maybe
because you got to follow it up.
It's like 4.5 million views on TikTok.
Yeah, you got to follow it up. I'm telling you, that's all my wife watches on TikTok is dog and cat videos.
That's crazy. Yeah, she's probably watched it for sure. Okay, so I don't know if we want to get into who these people are or where it is, but it is out there on Twitter. The argument went very public today. This is a dispute that has been brewing behind the scenes for a while, for a few days, and it just blew up in the gambling Twitterverse today. And it is, Brady, you can probably figure it out. It rhymes with the old our old game here. It does involve one of John's coworkers, and it also involves friends of ours at a sports book in town. But here's the gist of the dispute that's going on, as I understand it. And you can, like I said, it's out there. It's very public. You can follow it. A guy made a large wager on the French Open. This is back in like December. French Open is supposed to happen in March, April, sometime around that time when everything got shut down. The rules of the book, everything all right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm good. I'm listening.
All right. The rules of the book stated that if the event did not occur within 8 days of the scheduled start date, then all bets were off. So guy makes the bet like months before the event is supposed to happen, the French Open. Makes the wager. The event obviously gets canceled back until last week they played it. So it's pushed back like 6 months. He holds onto his ticket. It wasn't done in the app, which is what I thought at first. It wasn't done in the app. It was done an old-fashioned paper ticket. So he holds onto it this whole time. He could have come back. He could have gone in and cashed it in like April, May, whatever, got the money back because all bets were refunded. But he holds onto it. Last week, tournament plays. His bet wins. It's actually a very substantial amount. I believe it's $30,000. So he goes to cash the ticket, and when he goes to cash it in, they give him back the original bet because all bets were refunded. It's in the rules. It's very explicit. It's written there. This is what happens. You get refunded. So they refunded him, made a big deal about it, and decided to go public with, hey, I just got screwed by this sports book. They totally screwed me out of this money. I won it. They wouldn't pay me. And now I'm going public with the information, and this is out there. So he's yelling and screaming about it on a podcast. So now it's out there in the public sector. People have heard about it. I know that the book is not happy with him, obviously, for, trashing their reputation, saying they're not paying him. And this is a public figure that's doing it. So he has a big following in the gambling world. So it's blown up. Now, I kind of thought that was it. It was like a public relations thing over. But the legal question comes in because lawyers have now stepped forward and said they are going to sue. I don't know if it's actually going to happen. Threatening a lawsuit is obviously different than actually filing one. But said they're going to sue to try to get this guy his money. I feel like there is zero chance he has anything. There is explicit rules written that if it doesn't happen within 8 days, it's over. Now, I guess the argument would be it is a pandemic. Things are very different. And they decided to kind of eschew some of the rules in terms of like future bets in the NBA market for winning a division and that sort of thing. And so the argument that is made on the gambler side is, hey, you change some of the rules, you can change them all. And that would be the comeback. I would say, listen, they refunded all the rest of these bets. And I don't know if this would matter, but you're a very prominent figure in the gambling world. Like, you should know that that's what happened. You should be aware of all these things that went on. So you should have known that you got refunded. So is there any recourse for this gambler?
Highly unlikely, right? Because the sports book's going to say we create the rules, and the rules make sense for what we have to do to set lines, right? We can't set a line for an event that we think is going to happen in 2 months or 3 months, and based on everybody's age at that time, their relative health at that time, it's all in real time, and so we need the events to occur within a reasonable period of time of when they're scheduled. Otherwise, everything we've done up to that point does not make sense for us, especially when, as I recall, when they first moved the French Open, they didn't exactly pick a date. They were just like, nope, we're delaying it. We don't know when it's going to happen. So, I mean, at that point, to hold them to lines that they made for an event that they thought was going to happen 6 months prior would seem quite unfair to me. The only reason I say highly unlikely and not absolutely no, although I really do think it's absolutely no, is because you're saying they changed. I'm not aware of how they did this, but it would be important evidence for my case if I was representing the bettor of what kind of other rules they bent or broke in regards to the pandemic, and sort of see if there was a pattern there on what those things were. Now, if they did, like, say, all the bends and breaks were on team sports, and you could say, hey, because every team's got to deal with it, versus, say, individual sports, especially individual international sports, where you got a lot of different countries. Some people may be able to go, some people may not. Everybody's aging along the way. Age is a big deal in tennis. All those different things. But I just don't think I don't think, number one, there's going to be a chance that he files, because when you file a lawsuit that could get kicked out just on an initial responsive motion, you could be liable for attorney's fees to the other side if it gets kicked out like that. And if he's got a good attorney, they would say, don't do this.
So does the book have a responsibility to make a concerted effort to notify customers?
I don't think. Well, they got to have their rules available, and they do, right? I mean, you could read the rules that goes with each bet, and as long as those are clearly stated. And the Nevada Gaming Commission has set guidelines on exactly what they have to do, how the rules have to be formatted, where they have to be placed, how they have to be available, and what they have to do to notify customers if there's any problem with it. So while what the Nevada Gaming Commission is not seen as the legal standard, like a jury could hold a sports book to a higher standard than Nevada Gaming, it is admissible evidence as to what the standard should be. And generally speaking, you're not going to find a lot of jurors who are going to say, oh, the Nevada Gaming Commission thinks this is what should be done. We think more should be done. I just don't think that that's a very likely outcome.
How about this? He's filing the lawsuit despite knowing he'll probably lose. That's gambling.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
I mean, point. It sounds like to me, I don't know the person. I don't think I know the person. But it sounds like to me that the person thought that their stature and the risk of him going crazy publicly about it would get him his money.
Yeah, I'm leaving out a couple of the details in regards to that I do know that I don't think I'm supposed to know.
Okay.
But from both sides,
yeah.
I know people on both sides of this. So yeah, I think you're right on that there was a belief that, yeah, you might not pay a regular person, but you're going to pay me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that holds up with the Gaming Commission.
Right.
And okay, I didn't know that this was going to happen. Jay, well, I could giving this away now. The person that runs the book in question is
just do it now. It's public, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was on Twitter. It was out there. So yeah, it's one of the hosts at VSiN was the bettor, and the Westgate was the book. So, and to make matters worse, thank you, Brady. Rhymes with best Nate. Exactly. I will say from Twitter, not everybody at VSiN is on the VSiN host side, which makes things really interesting because they were really Yeah,
Hard
they
to
were
be on
really
his
going
side
after
on
him.
this one.
Yeah, they were really going after him today on Twitter, which I found interesting. It's tough
I
with your
think it hurts.
coworkers.
I think it hurts the VSiN brand too. Like, you're supposed
Sure.
to be knowledgeable sports people on betting, right? That's the whole shtick. And if you're acting like the rules of betting are unfair and you don't understand them, then doesn't that hurt the VSiN brand?
You would think so, for
Yeah.
sure. Um, I have a couple legal stories, but I know people did want to get into some ballot things. My first question on the ballot, and I think we've talked about this before, but as the election approaches, one of the problems I've always had with especially like ballot questions is I feel like they're always so convoluted. Like, why can't they be? And I understand that from a legal, like, you have to make sure the wording is exactly right. Like, I get that part of it, but I do think I talk to so many people, and like I'm God, it sounds obnoxious. Like, pat myself on the back. Like, I feel like I study these questions a lot, and I'm like trying to break down exactly the meaning and the words. I don't feel like everybody has that kind of time or interest. I think a lot of people just look at their ballot and they're like, yeah. And I think the first time you read a lot of these questions, they can be a little confusing of what they actually intend to do.
So yeah, a couple things about that. Number one, the reason why the wording is so convoluted is because what is on the ballot becomes law if it passes. Okay, and even more importantly, the legislature can't change it for a session. So it is the law of the land for at least 2 years, and there can be no fixes. In most cases, there are some ballot initiatives that are not talking about changing the Constitution or making a law that when you pass it on the ballot, it then goes to the legislature to hammer out the language. But the constitutional questions, that's a done deal. So it's got to be right, and the legislature can't overturn. They can't even attempt to overturn a constitutional question for 2 years, and then to change the Constitution back, it has to pass 2 legislative sessions and a vote of the people. So it's, in theory, 6 years away. So you
Well,
want the wording to be right.
can
So
we make like some sort of constitutional amendment that we can agree on wording that's more simple for people that goes on the ballot but is not actually what goes into the Constitution?
so the I don't know, because the words matter, right? And we say, well, wait. The simple wording doesn't accurately reflect because of this exception, and that's what was written in there. Like, lawyers like me will drive you crazy on stuff like that. So no, I don't think that's a thing. That's what is supposed to be intended by what you'll see in your sample ballot, as in position for and position against. And usually they do a pretty good job of keeping those pretty short, half a page to a page on the yes or no. There's only 6 questions. So at most, we're talking 12 pages of argument. You're going to have to read for and against the 6 questions.
Do you have the ballot in front of you, by the way?
I did. You know what? I thought we were going to talk about it last week, and
I
I
know.
had it out, but I don't. I already voted, and I already did ballot tracks, which is awesome. So I already
Nice.
know that they received my ballot, but I know the questions.
Well, like the one I was thinking about was the same sex marriage question,
Yep.
right? Like, to me, like, I know how I want to vote. I'm sure it's
Yep.
not a surprise to people. Uh,
Yep.
but like, I read it, and like I read it, I had to read it twice, and I was like, okay, let me just make sure that this is what I'm actually voting for. But like, sorry if this comes across as a critique of people. Like, I don't think people have time or like energy or care to like study it and read it over and over again and like really hammer down what they're voting for. So
Yeah,
I just feel like sometimes people are going to vote and not understand what they're voting.
and that happens, and that you can challenge the ballot language, and almost every ballot question is challenged in court and goes before a judge in Carson City to ensure that the plain reading of it is in line with what it proposes to do, because the old trick back in the day was to double negative it
Right.
and get what you wanted. And so, like, you can't double negative it anymore. It has to be clear by the very question itself as to what the proposed law intends to do. So, yeah, I mean, um, Yeah, so I think they're doing the best that they can under the circumstances. Anytime you have a state that allows referendums by the people or ballot questions, and every state basically does, well, it's not exactly irrelevant, Mark, because yes, they did pass that. This is the energy renewable portfolio standard, which means that the energy produced within the state must meet a minimum amount of renewable energy source. That law was first brought up when I served, actually in 2017, and passed, but Governor Sandoval vetoed it. They then put it on the ballot. It got a ton of support on the ballot. And then because I think it passed 70 somewhat percent. I said somewhat because it was in the comments. 70 some percent. And then in the 2019 legislature, everybody realized, well, this is super popular. We're not going to vote against it. So it passed and was signed into law. But it could just as easily be changed if it's not in the Constitution. So the next legislative session, they could lower it to 25%. So it's not irrelevant. It matters, but it is correct that what they are seeking to change the Constitution to say in regards to energy production is current law.
What to you are the most important ballot questions that are out there?
Well, let me look in the numbers so I make sure I get them right.
Right.
I mean, some of these, like the same-sex marriage one, I think is important not for the day-to-day aspects of things. It's not gonna change anything today because the Supreme Court law is still the law of the land. So for those who don't know, in Nevada, same-sex marriage was not legal. There's a specific law that said you can't have same-sex marriage. It was passed by the vote of the people. But then when the Supreme Court issued their decision, which said any law that bans same-sex marriage is illegal, then of course you could have same-sex marriages in the state of Nevada, despite Nevada's law against it. And so what that question seeks to do is take out the part of Nevada's law that conflicts with the Supreme Court. So it's not going to change anything if you vote yes on that, unless the Supreme Court changes their position on same-sex marriage, which is why it's important.
Which is going to happen.
I don't know. The question one has to do with the regents and the higher education. This one's, I think it's very important to vote yes on this one. What basically happens is, as you know, we all vote for the regents. Nobody knows who the fuck the regents are, right? They like see a name, they're like, that name sounds solid, and they vote for that name, or they don't.
One's my friend. Take it easy.
Okay,
we know
right.
That.
Like what I know who they all are, but I wouldn't have if I hadn't been campaigning, right? Like I remember what it was like to be a voter before I ever did the assembly, and like you don't know these people. You certainly don't know the regents. But what the regents have done is when the legislature has tried to enact laws to govern how the regents and the higher education and the university regents conduct their business, the regents have said, no, we're elected by the people. We are the fourth branch of government. And they've sort of resisted this, and they're like, whoa, there's no fourth branch of government. Just because you're elected by the people doesn't mean that you answer to nobody. Just like the sheriff is elected, but he doesn't answer to nobody. So those abuses have been unchecked in the past, where regents have, regents have taken the position that they can't be kicked out of office. They can't be recalled. Recalled they can't. We know that in the state statute, but they can't be impeached like a judge could. They're like, we're the fourth branch. The only thing you control, legislature, is our budget. You give us the money, we decide what to do with it. And so I think question one, voting yes, is an important piece to ending that conversation. It has never been challenged in court. If it ever was, the court would absolutely agree there's only three branches of government, but we shouldn't have to go through that to get there. And the regents, the universities need to answer to one branch, and that branch should be the legislature. So that's question number one. Big yes on that one. Question number 2. Is that the same-sex marriage one? Yep. Okay, so we already discussed that. Question 3 is, oh, I like this one too. This one's a big one. So this is talking about the State Board of Pardons. And the way the Pardons Board works right now is there are people who are part of the board as a result of the current state of the law, which would include the Attorney General, the Governor, and then a couple other appointees. But nobody can be pardoned unless, well, number one, they're not required to meet in any regular intervals to hear pardons. So they may not get together at all for any amount of time, even though there are some up for pardons or paroles. So this law seeks to require them to meet at least once every 6 months. Good law. If you got paroles out there, if you got people up for parole, they shouldn't have to wait around for years just because you guys don't want to meet. Number 2, the way the law currently reads, nobody can be pardoned unless the governor agrees with the majority vote. So there could be 7 votes for or 8 votes for and 1 against. If the 1 against is the governor, the person is not pardoned. And so I think it's important that not be the case. I don't know why the governor would be the only person with that voice, but I think that there's 2 really recent examples in which politics played into the vote of one of the board members, the commission members. And the one I'm thinking of is, oh my gosh, Fred Steith. Fred Steith was this kind of drifter during the early 90s. And long story short, he got charged with murder. You might have heard about this case because one of the prosecutors of that case is running for the Supreme Court of Nevada, Doug Herndon. And the prosecutors, Mr. Herndon, Judge Herndon, he's a judge, and Judge Kephart, he's a judge as well, prosecuted the case. They had Fred Steith said, I wasn't even in the state of Nevada. Like, I wasn't even here. I was in Idaho with my sister. And they're like, okay, well, we'll just sort of check that out. Anyway, they found a witness who received a MoneyGram from Fred, or Fred received a MoneyGram from him in Idaho on the day of the alleged murders. So he was not in the state. They totally had the alibi. The prosecutors did not disclose the evidence to the defense, convicted of a murder, put him into jail for 20-something years. He was later, in the only case ever in Nevada history, was found to be an order of innocence from Judge Kadish, and he went to the pardon board to be pardoned because he was found innocent did not mean he was free. And the district attorneys opposed it and said that he should that they stand by their work, blah 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 blah. Adam Laxalt voted against it, along with when he was attorney general. But the governor voted for it. Everybody else voted for it. There's an order of actual innocence. Like, there's no doubt he was not in the state at the time of the murders. There is no conflicting testimony in that regard. And so when there's a but Adam Laxalt at the time was running for governor, and he wanted the backing, presumably, I have not in his mind, but having the DA's backing, presumably was important for his run for governor. And I don't think you want those political types of decisions. They're always going to come into play, but there should be no one person that has all that power. That was a super long explanation of why.
That was an awesome story, though.
So, yeah. So, and Fred's out. He's pardoned. He's free. That's all cool. Okay. Question.
It's not all cool. He was in jail for 20 years for something he didn't do.
Yeah. Well, and one of the cool laws that did come out of that is now, if you've been wrongfully incarcerated in the state of Nevada, there is a stipulated amount of money that you get. I'm probably going to get this wrong, but if you serve over 10 years, it's like $100,000 for every year you served. That might be 20. Yeah. Where do you think it comes from? Our taxes.
Us. Yeah.
Us. Yep. Which is why, I think that district attorneys who do something wrong should be held accountable. That's yeah, he did get compensated. So they passed the law, and he was in 21 years. So I think he'll get $2 million. But I might have that number wrong. I might have the 100,000 wrong. But it stair steps along based on the number of years of incarceration. Long story short. So he testified to get that bill passed.
Did you see this question? We do have viewers from all over the place, Justin.
Can you do any cases out of the state? I'm licensed in Utah and California.
Okay.
So there you go. Okay, question 4, voters' rights. This one, I'll tell you, is a little bit close to me because what they want to do is they want to have the current state of the law list out a couple of things. You know, no voter intimidation. You have a right to have assistance if you're disabled when you vote. And there's a couple of different things. And the proponents of this question want all of those things put into the Constitution. So they're constitutionally protected. No one legislature can come out and take away voters' rights, which is super good. On the flip side, I am sympathetic to the argument that the way in which we vote is changing pretty rapidly right now, and that we don't want in the Constitution anything outdated. Ultimately, I voted yes on this because I didn't see any one of the rights that would go to the voters that would be outdated anytime soon. They didn't talk about a mail. They didn't talk about a piece of paper. They didn't talk about a Scantron. They didn't talk about a bubble. They didn't talk about a touch screen. So I thought they walked a good line in making it last for a very long time without it needing to be changed. So I'm all for voters' rights and voter protection. So
question 5 is a tricky one.
Question 5.
Because there isn't one, right?
Oh, it's already, yeah. No,
Okay.
There isn't one. So that was omitted. So question 6.
This one's gotten the most interest in the chat room so far.
Yeah, it's weird that this one has the most interest. Doesn't matter really, ultimately, whether you vote yes or no on this. Our renewable portfolio standard, it does have to be 50% by 2030. NV Energy is already committed to that. I think they're already above 35% to 40%. And I'm for it. I frankly, I would love to see it go into the Constitution that needs to be 100% by 2050. I would love that. And they could do it.
There was everybody go vote. Yes, we agree. Also, where's Steve? He's on vacation. He's allowed vacation. And he's on vacation from radio and here. So that's why these late night shows have been so brilliant. So
dude, all these people asking for the Battleborn polo. I'll tell you what, we're gonna get we'll get the studio, the 3BC, the Battleborn broadcast studio, which is in planned development and being the beginnings of construction starting here soon. We'll have by the end of the year, we'll have a broadcast from the office. I'll have a bunch of polos. Everybody can stop by. We'll give them out.
There you go. And doesn't early voting start tomorrow, Saturday, but you can still mail in your ballot, and then you go to nevada.ballottrax. So BALLOTRAX. Why they had to do the X, I don't know. .net, and you can register yourself for there. They do ask for some personal information. They ask for your birthday, your first and last name. I think they ask for your address as well. But it is not like a third party, like just some weird website. It is through the Nevada Secretary of State has commissioned with them to do this service. So it has all the protections that you do when you vote through the Nevada Secretary of State. So you could sign up to either be emailed, called, or text when they receive your ballot. So I signed up for it to check it out on email. Got the email a couple days later. Yep, we received your ballot. You're good to go. You answered this earlier, but I'll put it back up there. I don't think we should do this on the show because I will talk ballot questions all for 24 hours. The judicial races, I think, would bore people to death. But you do have some recommendations for people if they want them, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is important to me, but I get, like, I could just sit there and rattle off names. If that's what people want me to rattle off names and go right through it, I'll do it. I mean, the big one for me, the top of the list, Supreme Court, Ozzie Fumo. He's the man. But if you just want a list, you could DM me, BattlebornJW, on Twitter. I might need to follow you back. But I'll give you my list. Adam saw how quick I have it. I get asked this question right now multiple times a day. So I have the text ready to go, and I can send you my list. I don't have any family court on there, though.
I got a bunch of people asking me, and that's why I asked you. And as you said, you sent it right away. So I felt like I was giving you extra work, but you just had it ready. I feel like.
Oh yeah. And sorry, was it treason ODB? I don't have any opinions on any family court judges. I don't practice in family court. Don't know. So what do I do for family court judges? I ask family court lawyers, and I get their list.
There you go.
And so I have no personal opinion. Oh yeah, James is right too. BD Yeager kicks ass too. In all fairness, though, she's the wife of an attorney at my office, Steve Yeager. So I'm biased, but she's freaking awesome. She's rad.
I just addressed this. This is not about the balloting. The shows are different. Treason on TV. They're very, very different radio shows.
Yeah, you guys were great today. I was listening on the drive home. You guys were good.
I very much enjoy. It's a different show for sure, but I very much enjoy doing shows with JVT, including yesterday when we did something that Steve would probably murder us for. But we asked a trivia question with no prize, just so we could make Ari answer phones because it annoys him so much.
Oh, that's great. Hey, did you open a window or something? You got like a wind coming through your headphones.
Oh, do I? I have a fan.
Oh yeah, right. When you lean forward, when you lean back, it's good.
All right, there you go.
Lean back. There you go. You're fine now.
I can move the fan too.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry, lost some of the comments here. I gotta catch up. JVT and his jabronis. Yes, you were listening. That is the name. That is the name of our show. Making sure here. Oh, did you see what are your thoughts on Vincent Ochoa?
Yeah, he's family court judge.
Okay.
I said I don't have any opinions.
All right. So there was a couple of other things. So we talked yesterday. I don't know if you heard. Oh wait, yeah, you were there, right? We talked about the bus driver, right? Were you there for that one?
No.
Sorry, not the bus driver. The kid that stole the bus.
Not there for that either.
Okay. All right.
What's that about?
Mind.
Yeah, go for it.
An 11-year-old kid. This is just to set up another story, but an 11-year-old kid stole a bus. Was out on a joyride, riding the bus. He was chased by the police, obviously, because he stole a bus. He had to stand up to reach the pedals. But he's driving around town. Cops are about to catch him. He flips them off, keeps going. Sounds awesome. But my question to JVT, the reason we did the story, my question to JVT was, as a father of a son, his son is very little, but if your son's 11 and he does this, what are you doing? Because first of all, I think your first reaction is to laugh. It's hilarious. But you also have to not show the kid that it's funny.
You're asking me as a parent?
Yeah, you don't have sons. It's different.
Yeah, I got daughters, but if I had a son, God save him, I'd be beating his ass.
Wouldn't you also laugh?
Me and my wife would laugh off to the side, maybe a little bit. I don't know, dude. That's some serious shit, dude. I don't know.
So, but the reason I'm setting this up to transition to something else, but one of the parts of the story was that the parents are furious because the kid was handcuffed at the end of the joyride. Which
that's fucking stupid. He should be handcuffed.
So the rule apparently there was 10 and up. If you're 10 and over and you're going to jail, you get handcuffed. So they handcuffed him, took him to jail. The parents are mad that he was handcuffed. Now this story.
No wonder he's fucking stealing buses. He's got great parenting there. He steals a fucking bus, goes on a run, and his parents are worried that he got handcuffed and they're upset with the police. Like, your kid stole a fucking bus.
If I get in trouble,
say it fucking out loud.
Okay. Well, I also feel like, your kid is probably heading in the wrong direction if they're stealing buses at 11. So maybe he needs it. Okay, this story. That was to transition to. That was a long way to segue, but I know I do still like the story, so I want to tell it. Boy in North Carolina, 7 years old.
Wait, real quick, Miller J Vegas. Follow me on Twitter, DM me, and I'll send you my voting suggestions. Go ahead.
Justin, don't worry. Other commenters are telling him this.
Oh, great.
Like we have commenters talking to each other, saying, "Hey, just go ahead, DM." So,
Cool.
so this kid, 7 years old, North Carolina. He's autistic. He's in special ed. He was being disruptive, according to the reports of what was going on. But he was being disruptive, and was taken to what they have. They have a quiet room, which I believe it's probably where they have challenged children, and they have a quiet room where they're like, calm down. It's just a place to kind of calm them down and let them get away.
Well, you should say this is a special needs school,
right?
It's specifically for kids on the spectrum and behavioral issues and development issues. So, I mean, they are built for this. They have the quiet room. They have special assistance for these sort of situations.
A school resource officer, and listen, we don't know everything that led up to it, but handcuffed the kid, had him, face down in this room, and was saying some things to him. Now, there is some things on the video where he's like, "Hey, can you breathe? Are you hot?" Like he's checking on him. But there's also some pretty, I would say abrasive language.
Yeah, fuck this
he's
guy.
using toward the kid.
Yeah.
So I guess this is the question is, from a legal perspective, they are suing. Lawsuit alleges that the officer abruptly entered the room, claiming to have seen the boy spit on the floor as he walked past. Body camera video shows the officer forcing the boy into a kneeling position with his arms pinned behind him, saying, "If you spit on me, I'm going to put a hood on you." It says the 7-year-old was put in metal handcuffs on the ground for more than 38 minutes. At one point, the officer said, "Have you heard the term babysitter? I take that term literally, my friend." I don't know what that means, so I guess he's sitting on him. It's ridiculous. Clearly, this was over the top.
Well, no. Then he starts telling them, "You're going to fucking juvie. You're going to get charged for this. You're going to jail." He's telling them all this bullshit. What a fucking asshole.
So, I mean, is there an age that we're determining you can't do this if they're a certain age?
I don't think in a special needs school you could do this really at all, right? Yes, maybe you could physically restrain somebody when you need to, but to then attempt to harm them emotionally by scaring them and make that's so wrong for what you're getting yourself into when you're at a school like that. I can understand that there needs to be physical restraints in certain situations. You don't need to fucking taunt the kid. You don't need to talk shit to the kid. And he's autistic. He's probably not doing well with what you're already doing, and you're trying to fucking make it worse because honestly, I don't care what he did at that point. Just shut your fucking mouth and wait until the mom gets there and go about your business, right? Okay. But there's something wrong with this cop, dude. There's something wrong with this dude.
Well, he's a school resource officer. I think we should be clear. I don't know what the relationship is necessarily with the police department.
Whatever.
But yeah.
Fuck him anyway.
But is there? I mean, I guess it would be understanding of environment, right? Like, as you said, like any kind of special needs environment, there needs to be a different level of how you treat kids. But I would say any 7-year-old seems over the top, no matter what, right?
I mean, I don't know. I watched The Wire. There's some tough 7-year-olds.
True.
Talking shit to cops.
But that's also what I'm getting at. Like, this kid very well could have been completely out of control. Like, it's possible he was out of control to the point he did need to be restrained in some way.
Okay.
Well, like, what? I guess how do we determine? It sounds like I'm defending. I'm not defending him. I'm just saying.
Right.
How do we determine, like, what is out of control? It's just a reasonable standard.
Yeah, everything's the reasonable person standard. Now, but they're going to have a heightened standard because they specifically are designed to handle kids on the spectrum and in these situations. So, yeah, she is. Poor Charlene. She's our most avid listener.
Yeah.
So they, in essence, they're not marketing because they're a school, but they market to. They tell the parents, I'm going to provide a safe environment for your kids. When things go awry, we know how to handle them so they're not going to get themselves hurt, right? You're standing in the way of the fan again, dude. It's like fucking.
Turning it off. It's fine. Turn it off.
It's like I'm at the airport over here. Jesus.
It's off. Don't worry.
So I think they're to a heightened standard. They've put that standard on themselves, and welcome this in. You got to do better, way fucking better than that.
So in the other case,
no matter what happens, the kid's out of fucking control. You knew kids were going to be out of control. That's what you're there for.
Right. In the other case, the stolen bus case, the actual policy was if a child is over 10, they're put in handcuffs. Like, is that pretty? I mean, that's an okay standard of like, hey, 10 years old, we put them in handcuffs. If they're not 10, we don't. Why would you have to put an 8-year-old in handcuffs? I guess.
I think it's fine. You know, I think it's fine to put a fucking 10-year-old in handcuffs if they doing stupid shit, and who knows what they're doing. You know, is a 10-year-old not capable of grabbing the gun from a police officer off his hip? Not or trying.
Probably is.
Right.
10-year-olds are they're strong and they're crazy.
Oh, the thing that fucking, if you really want to get shocked, the 10-year-old in handcuffs doesn't shock me. What shocks me is that a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old can waive their Miranda rights. That's what shocks me.
Well, I mean, we've seen in some of these documentaries and some of the level of questioning, it's insane. I mean, that does go back, and I think we've talked about this before, but it hit me in terms of like how much like vagueness, I guess, would be in a law for like level of understanding and intellect. I mean, I'm thinking of the Making the Murderer case where they're grilling a 13-year-old, but he obviously is not intellectually on that level. Like he's obviously way below that intellectually.
They would never go to specificity on that because each person's different, right? And it's going to require expert testimony of that specific person, whether or not they can comprehend, the questions, whether or not they can comprehend what they're saying, or if they're so underdeveloped that they are just going to relay back what's being said to them so they can be directed on exactly what to testify. So yeah, you're never going to see, there's no standardized test for it, right? And you're never going to get everybody to agree that, oh yeah, this is the test. And if you pass this test or you fail this test, because then people could game the system, start failing the test on purpose.
True. I would do that. I won't say the player's name because I don't know the actual truthfulness of this, but I'll just ask it from a legal perspective. I'm not doing it.
Come on.
It's a story because here's why. It's a story I've always heard. I don't know if it's true or not. I've never actually looked it up, but I've always heard this story from actually a friend of me and Steve's. And I just want to ask you because from a legal perspective, what is the feasibility of this? That there was an athlete that was charged with a crime, and then his essential defense was he's too dumb to know that that's a crime or to understand that it's a crime. He can't be guilty. Is that a real thing?
I remember hearing something about this. No, ignorance of the law is no defense. Saying you're too dumb to understand the law is no defense.
What if you're too dumb to understand anything?
No defense. But you could be too dumb if you can't understand anything, if you're so super stupid that you can't communicate, you can't talk, that sounded really bad. That's not appropriate for me to say stupid. But if you are so compromised, intellectually compromised that you cannot then be tried for a crime. Different though. But the ignorance of the law is not a defense.
Gotcha. Let's close on this one. This is a little bit of an interesting one to me. 37-year-old man in Portland. During a lot of the, let's say the protesting / rioting at times in Portland, he went to fill a gas canister at the gas station. Just a regular family guy, went to the garage. It was Jay's garage in Southeast Portland, and went to fill up his gas canister. As I said, this guy's a teacher, and it was apparently for his lawnmower. And the attendant at the gas station said, "No, you're not filling that up," and essentially implied that you're just filling this gas canister up so that you can go use it to start fires. I'm not going to sell that to you. He said you could put it either straight into your car, straight into your lawnmower. You can't put it into a canister. This gentleman, Dominic DeWeese, who is black, says he was clearly profiling him and saying, you can't do this because you're black and you're going to go set a fire. But the guy said, no, you can't do it because you might go participate in something. He's just saying we're not filling those up. Not necessarily saying you're black, you can't do it. We're not filling those canisters up.
No, that's not what he said.
Okay.
He didn't say, yeah. So first thing, I went to school in Oregon, so I got a little bit of exposure to this. First thing, in Oregon, you cannot pump your own gas. So That's how this all starts. He's got to have the dude pump the gas into the gallon gas tank. And the guy's like, nope, I'm not doing it. People are setting dumpster fires all over the place. I'm not doing it. And he's like, why would I set a dumpster fire? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I gotta go mow the lawn. And he's like, yep, I'm not doing it. And he's like, so you get to decide, so the argument was you get to decide who you're going to pump gas for and who you're not. He's like, yep, exactly right. And so he got a lawyer and sued on racial discrimination. And that lawyer, I guess, has been doing this. I don't know the lawyer. I don't know anything about it up there, but I guess he's been doing these sort of cases for the last 40 years. And he said, I'll put it more crassly, business is booming, right? Like, he's just getting cases all over the place. And he then rattled off like 3 other examples that were much more egregious than this one, of refusal to pump gas for a black lady, specifically said because you're black. There's like a diner, I think, or a food one that they wouldn't serve them any food. And so he's like, yeah, they're all there. I'm confident I'm going to get resolution. He said the positive side is the corporations and the insurance companies have been much more receptive to these types of claims and go, oh yeah, we got to get rid of this kid. Sorry, here, we'll pay some compensation to move on. So, I spent enough time in Oregon to say that it's a sort of a state divided. There's super lefties, in and around the Eugene area and the Portland area, and it's a blue state, but there's still a big faction of what I would say are racist.
Well, this is the part of the story that I was trying to reference, and I'll look at it directly. But the question is, he said, so the attendant said, I'll only sell you gas if you pump it directly into your lawnmower or car. Like, couldn't you make that a rule at your gas station and just say it applies to everybody?
If and then
you get around being
correct.
Even if you are discriminating, even if you're making that rule just to discriminate, you could just say, hey, we're not going to put it in canisters right now. And you could get around discriminating. You could discriminate, but get around discriminating.
Nope, you cannot. Okay, just because a rule is not discriminatory on its face does not mean it's non-discriminatory. So they look at so back in the day when the Civil Rights Act of 1964 came down, said you can't discriminate based on race. And then all these businesses say, well, no, that's fine. We'll serve everybody. But if you're, I'm going to come up with a stupid example, but if you've got black hair and it's cropped real short, then we won't serve you, or something that was an identifier of a certain race. But they said, no, we didn't say if you're black. We just said, like, if you have these physical traits, like, they're totally different. Right. And they said, no, you got to look at the impact of the rule. You got to look at the impact, or if a law is made, look at the impact. And if the impact is discriminatory, it is still inappropriate.
Well, so in this case specifically,
but if there is a rule at the gas station that says you could, with what's going on in the world right now, we're not filling gas canisters. We're only going to fill it directly into the vehicles or into like lawnmowers or whatever equipment, ATVs or what have you. Right. Then yeah, he's going to have a better argument. I tend to think he made it up on the fly.
Sure. Well, I mean, how? I guess I'm just trying to think of how you could like. Can you just randomly decide? Okay, I'm going to decide right now. This is our new rule, and we are going to implement this rule. But I literally just decided. I looked at this guy. I didn't want to sell him the gas, and I just made this rule right now. And I was going to find everybody going forward.
Yeah, you better be good about it
right now.
Yeah, you better be good about it. Because what am I going to do if I'm an attorney right there, right? If that's your defense, I'm sending a white guy down to your place with a gas can.
Well,
and I'm going to send
30.
Huh?
But if it's now, you can be like, well, that's over now.
Oh yeah, that's going to go over real well with the jury. Yeah,
the demonstrations are over.
I've got the video. This white guy, all American dude, just filling up his gas. Tenant even lets him do it himself. Yeah, go for it, man. It's all good.
So some people were ahead of me on this one, but it was what I was going to follow up with. And I was specifically going to ask about because it was the Power and Light District in Kansas City where this was very famous. But it says here, sounds like some dress code rules that are common. And Brady said, do Vegas nightclubs get into with dress codes that target minorities with their descriptions? I mean, they do. And the Power and Light District one was like jerseys that are too big. You're like, wait, what does that mean? You're clearly targeting somebody here. Like hats that are turned to the side was one. Like, all right, like what are we doing here? Like you're clearly making this so you're not allowed to do those things. That's kind of what you're getting into. Of you're saying, hey, we're not targeting a certain group, but you are.
It's a pretext, right? It's just an excuse. So in order to get around that, rather than saying we're going to be the arbiters of whether or not you're telling the truth, we're just going to bypass that. I don't care if you're telling the truth or not. If your rule is discriminatory in its effect, then you're going to be in trouble.
Targeting overweight people with the jersey policy. It's not that it's
no. If it's too big,
not if it's a big jersey.
In general, right. Double XL jerseys, you're out.
Look at Ari weighing in. Vegas nightclub scene has been overtly racist for as long as I can remember.
Whoa.
I mean, it does seem some of the dress codes would target. Like how?
Think about a golf club.
Yeah.
Right? Collared shirts, no jeans, but that one there's plenty of white people that are excluded under that too. So that's why you see that golf clubs don't get challenged like that.
There you go. Good stuff as always from Justin. I am sorry that JVT wasn't here. I know I promoted it, but he'll be on the radio tomorrow. You can check him out. JVT and Adam Canyon. I'm sure it'll be a great show, much better than when I'm there or when Steve's there. Make sure you listen to that. Check it out. Cofield Company tomorrow. And Justin, great stuff as always. How can people track you down?
Oh, God. We got to do the spiel again?
Yes. They know you don't have to.
We're done. Yeah, no, they know where to find me. It's all good.
People should follow Battleborn JW on Twitter. Yeah. If you want to.
The app I deleted. No. I still have it. I followed it on here. I'm hitting people up. I'll give them all their stuff. I got.
So yeah, try to hit him up in DMs, and then you can make sure you follow him. He can follow you back and DM you and give you. Yes, there you go. Thank you, James. I'll call yours up. Also, Brady, I didn't see you. Maybe you did it. Didn't remind me. Meetup. Check that out.
No big chai. Battleborn.com is not our website. It's battleborn.vegas.
Yeah, battleborn.
I wish I had battleborn.com.
Who has it?
Some dude that won't sell it to me and doesn't have a website up. Yeah.
Jerk. There's a at Adam Hill, I think, on Twitter that's like an Australian comedian.
Is he funny?
I'm sure I'm funnier than him. I would like to get the handle. That'll do it though. Thank you, sir. Thanks to all the listeners. Great comments tonight as always. We will talk to you later. And Steve back next week from his big vacation. See you guys.